Good morning. Morning, Nancy. Welcome to Make It Monday. I'm Jim with Amy Sows, and today I thought I would share with you a little trick I've been doing for a couple years, and hopefully this might help make a solution to your pattern markings a little easier. I know myself for years, whenever I first started to sew, and transferring the markings from the paper pattern tissue to the fabric can be a little daunting at times because quite often we have all these different tools at our resource there. And a lot of times we may also use like those blue or purple disappearing pens, which do work great. However, it seems like they never last as long as we would like them to last. And sometimes it's really difficult to get the marks to go where we want to go and to stay when we want them to stay and leave when we want them to go. So it's a lot. Hi, Susie. Thanks for joining us. So, oh, and hi, Fran. And what I thought I'd share with you is a couple tricks. So if you do have one of those disappearing markers, whether it be the blue or the purple, whatever, and quite often, they never last as long as you would like. One of the things I do, and this is not a disappearing one, but it's what I have at hand. When you have a marker like that, quite often, whenever we're done marking our pattern tissue, whatever, we just go and toss it in the drawer, whatever. And it seems like you're just asking for it to dry up a lot sooner than what you want. Usually what I do is I take my pens, I don't lay them flat, I store them with the cap down so that the ink goes towards the cap. And I also put them in a little container, like a little glass, in the refrigerator. That way they're at a constant temperature and the humidity is a good level. And it seems like my pens don't dry out then. I can get them to last maybe like 4 or 5 years just by storing them in a refrigerator with the cap down. That way you get a lot more use out of them. And another thing too is that with a lot of those pens, you don't want to iron over them because when you do, you're kind of setting that color into the fabric. A lot of times those purple pens, whenever they go and evaporate away, and then you find that you get ironed over them, you'll get like a brown mark later on, which is sometimes difficult to remove. So usually what I do is just, like I said, keep them in the refrigerator and try not to iron over them. And then again, you have the problem too. Sometimes it seems like when you want the marks to go away, they don't want to go away. They kind of stay there or come back. Well, if you're willing to think outside the box, I got a little trick for you that works every single time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you over to the overhead. So this may help you even to speed up your pattern cutting. And a lot of times, like say here, I have a sleeve pattern cut out. And a lot of times what we may do is we may go and cut like a little triangle where they have the triangle for the front and the back. And of course, the top of our sleeve cap. And well, it works. However, it makes it kind of a bigger marking on your fabric. And it does take more fabric because you can't really line up another pattern piece that close to it because you have to allow for those little triangles will still be there. So quite often what I do is I just go and cut them off and then probably put a notch. So where there's that single one there, I'll put a single notch in here. While that works great and makes it permanent, you can't do it for every fabric because sometimes what I found out is if I have a little notch here going into, let's say, a knit, it's going to encourage it to maybe have a run across my fabric either direction. So putting a clip in a knit fabric is not a good thing. And also too, sometimes when you lay them out, you may think like, okay, today I'm going to get all my cutting done, and you get all that done and think like, okay, maybe tomorrow or the next day I'll go to summer project. And it turns out to be a week or two later. And you have it like this and you're trying to remember, okay, which side was the right or the wrong side? So it's kind of tricky to sometimes remember you putting the right side together until you have it done. And you find out that you flipped it. So you have to take all your pieces apart. So this way it's going to help to label your fabric so you know the right sides to go to the right side. And these marks are, I don't want to say permanent, but they are permanent until you do one little magic thing to remove it. And that's either pick them off or wash them away. And if you do enjoy machine embroidery, you probably have this already in your resource center at home. It's called the basically the stick-on stabilizer that you would get at your local dealer, where you would just go ahead and, let's say, put this in the hoop, peel off the paper backing, and then you would have it so it looks kind of like interfacing and it's sticky, and you would put your fabric on top, put it in the machine, and then have it embroider your fabric. Well, what I did was, instead, I took my stick-on stabilizer and I took out my trusty little cutting mat from my Scan and Cut and applied it here. Went into my software and I told it to make me a series of dots. And I had it do a half cut like I'm doing a label. And you could probably see here, there's a whole bunch of little dots all over here. And if I pull this open, you could see how there's little dots that are all punched out. Normally I would make these closer together, but I have it like this. You could see it a little better. But I basically filled my sheet up with stick-on dots. And because my software has also different shapes, I can even fill it out with little stick-on. Sometimes it stays a little too well. I'm going to peel off a little triangle here. I can just show you this right there. And so where I had that triangle here, I can actually place that just inside that cutting line. So now I have a permanent mark on my fabric. And I'll do the same thing on the bodice front, where I have the top of the sleeve. I could do the same, or you know what? I got that circle. I can maybe put that circle there, or quite often on your patterns, how they may have a line and a circle. So that's where you would put your easing and stitching. I can do that same little identification dot or mark that they have on my pattern tissue and transfer it right to my fabric with the same way. Same thing with, I was a little busy here, so I got a whole bunch of shapes. I even have a little square. So I can actually put 2 squares on my fabric. I now know where I put the top of my pocket. So I'm going to attach my pocket to it. So it's going to stay there until I either come along and take a pair of tweezers or scissors and just lift it off. Or if I forget, first time I launder this, it's going to wash it right out. So it's not going to remain. Also, too, what I like to do with the little circles is I can put this exactly where every button is going to be sewn onto my garment. So this way I can have every single pattern tissue mark that is on my tissue easily transferred right over to my fabric. So now I have a permanent mark. So here I have all my little labels here. I could put 2 triangles here for like the back. I get the single one for the front. Now that I got it all marked, I can take it, fold it up, put it in my stash, and or on the pile, the to-do pile, like we all have, kind of. And that way I can then sew it up whenever I'm ready, and I don't have to worry about them ever disappearing too soon or have it permanently marking. So say if you're doing like a christening gown, I know my friend Martha's been sewing up a storm, and I can just imagine if you have like all those different, let's say, smockings or pin tucks that you're doing, and you're doing a lot of marking with pencils or pens, and then just to have them permanent when you accidentally iron over it. So this is one way to help prevent you from making that mistake and ironing it over and making a permanent mark. And everybody's from all over the country here, basically. And thank you, Connie. Yeah, it's kind of different. Another way to mark is, especially since seems like every time you go to use your pens, they're always dried up, and you can't rely on your pens. Personally, I like to use chalk a lot, but usually I would mark it with chalk and then go right to sew it, because just by the manipulation of the fabric, the lines disappear. So you want to go and use whatever is best for you. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but it's definitely a different way to do it. And it may help to speed up your sewing and your cutting. Because I know, like I said, at home, when I go to cut, I can just cut right through all the different shapes and then carefully peel back the tissue and then start applying my dots. And that way I have everything transferred exactly where they need to be. There's no shifting. There's no messing up of the pieces that you need. And just like I always say before with like the stick-on stabilizer, I do a lot of machine embroidery. I never throw any of the scraps away. I save every bit of it. If you're ever putting on the buttons or making a buttonhole, and a lot of times you see how the stitching isn't as quite as nice as you would like. If you think about it, what's a buttonhole but basically zigzag stitch, which is also a satin stitch, so it's embroidery. So if you treat your buttonholes like embroidery, add stabilizer, and it'll keep the fabric from being sucked into the throat plate of your machine, and you'll get a far better stitch out than you would have without using it. So I never waste any of my scraps of stabilizer. Oh, okay, Mary. Thank you. I guess you kind of like that. And she said, I hope there's a replay for this. Thank you. Well, guess what? Usually what it automatically does is whenever we're done taping, it'll go and record, it's recording it while we're doing it now. And shortly afterward, it'll be uploaded. So you can go back here on Facebook on Amy Sews or on YouTube and watch it again and again. So if you missed us last week, you can go back and review some like last week's or the week before or whatever. And also to just to give you a hint, we got a great one coming up next week. So you don't want to miss that. So if by chance you're busy, traveling, whatever, you can always go back and review. So don't worry about going ahead and missing it or wanting to review it. You can easily go back and redo it. And Elizabeth, you're not showing your age too, because I do tailor tacks a lot too, but this is kind of quick, and you have to worry about threading a needle too. So actually, whatever works best for you is my suggestion to you. So try it. That's like whenever like last week we did a serger class here in the store, and I usually like tell all my students I'm not like the authority on it. However, these are tricks that work for me to share them with you, because what I may tell you may work great or it may not, but now you know what not to do for you. So basically take every class that's available to you. And speaking of classes, one of the things what I suggest you do is like visit us here at Amy Sews, because we got a lot of online classes available for you. We do have like our scan and cut subscription classes and our serger box as well. Right now, I don't believe they're open for new enrollment, but you can get on the list because we sometimes do limit it because of availability of products, because quite often we want to make sure that everybody gets a lot of product in their box. So you could wait on the list or hopefully get on it right away. So be sure to check that out often. And also too, we do have our monthly tea towel with Sharon. So she just came up with a couple new great designs. So you may want to check that out also. And of course, you can go to our amybuckmansewingquilts.com and check out all the different classes and events we have going on here in the store, because you don't want to miss out on that too. And if you kind of like my tip, and I'm seeing there's people here from Atlanta and Georgia, so I may just run into you this week because I'm also on the staff of the Original Sewing Quilt Expo, and we'll be starting our traveling this year for 2024. So if you're interested in some more classes like this, be sure to go to the website, sewingexpo.com, and check me out and sign up for all my classes before they sell out. And if you're here local, be sure to stop by the shop or register online to get on the bus, as Amy's doing a bus trip and it's filling up fast, and you don't want to miss out on that. Same thing with like all the different classes she has to offer. And Nancy, okay, thanks for the tip. I'm going to have to go and pack an umbrella just in case, since we're going to the expo this week. And I guess there's no other questions. So, one thing I want to point out too, anytime you have an idea or you come into an area where you're having trouble with a sewing project, a serger project, even a craft project, you can actually go ahead and email us or actually post a comment here, because we do review them all and read them. And quite often, a lot of times the ideas for what we have for Make It Monday comes from people like yourself who say that, you have a problem with this, or, if there's a simpler solution for that. And we quite often make it into a Make It Monday. So we try to tailor them to be just for you. And Sydney, I am looking forward to it. And so yeah, as Amy says, please sprinkle it out. So if you have a friend, share it with them. And actually, if you're going to the expos coming up, I got a real treat for you because I actually borrowed, I didn't, don't tell Amy, I borrowed some of the samples from Make It Monday so that you could see them up close and personal. So if you're not local, well, you could plan a trip to come out here to Harmony, Pennsylvania, to Amy Buckman Sew and Quilt and visit the actual store. Uh, or you could stop by the expo and maybe take a class and see a couple cool things. So, okay, I'm just trying to check out everybody's comments here. So it looks like it's kind of a full group here today. So again, like Amy said, please be sure to share the fact that we're here. Amy sews every week, every Monday at noon Eastern. And be sure to let us know if you'd like to see anything specific. You have any questions, comments, concerns, etc. Be sure to sign up to be on the mail list. So when you visit amysews.com, sign up on the mail list so that you can learn all about the new stuff that's coming out, some upcoming classes and events we're having here at the shop, and even online, because we're planning on doing a couple more online programs for everybody. So I guess that's it. I think we covered everything. So be sure to visit us here at amysews.com and on Facebook and YouTube and all the different medias we have out there. And as always, thank you for coming and spending a few minutes with us today. We greatly appreciate everything you do. Hope to see you next time. And remember, the more you know, the more you sew. You take care.